Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं, श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादां सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Thank you all for joining for today's session. And so we are in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So before we dwell into that, let me also summarize and give you a very crisp overview about Bhagavad Gita and how you can see Bhagavad Gita. So I know you have been in this journey for so many days now, like almost like 18 days now. So, but again, I wanted to give you a kind of a different perspective how you can read Bhagavad Gita and how you can see Bhagavad Gita. See, it's a lot of things you can derive from Bhagavad Gita. They say that the more you read Bhagavad Gita, more perspective you get. And that is the, see, when you see any mundane kind of a book, novel, once you read it, you just put it in your shelf, and you don't have to, or you do not have any impetus to really go and pick it up again and read. Why? Because it is stale. Once you have, that's because it is material, mundane. Now Bhagavad Gita is not like that. Bhagavad Gita is spiritual. And you know what is Bhagavad Gita. And one of the uh, somebody asked me, what is Bhagavad Gita? I was just not able to upfront tell him what is Bhagavad Gita all about. And but I think since you have come through the 18 days of Bhagavad Gita, you should also start thinking, what is Bhagavad Gita and what is Bhagavad Gita to me? It is a personal journey that Krishna is trying to take you through. So how you can really read Bhagavad Gita, how can you can see Bhagavad Gita. Though there are 18 chapters, 700 slokas, and we all say that Bhagavad Gita is Gitopanishad. It is the essence of all the Vedic literature. And Srila Prabhupada once was saying that, suppose all the books in all the libraries in the entire world are just gone for some reason, and if there is only one book called Bhagavad Gita, if it is there, the humanity will still survive, and the spirituality will still survive. That's the importance of Bhagavad Gita, and that's the reason why so much emphasis is there in ISKCON for Bhagavad Gita. It is the ABC of spirituality, and it takes you in your personal journey. And we can go and talk about so many things, but I just wanted to touch upon the sequence in which the Bhagavad Gita chapters have been made. So that is what I wanted to quickly discuss about how the logical sequence that Krishna has chosen to give this knowledge to us. So I would say that everybody knows the 7 habits of highly effective people that Stephen Covey has come. So this one, the 18 chapters, you can take it as 18 habits of highly spiritual people. So 18 chapters are the wisdom, 18 wisdoms that Krishna is giving, 18 pearls that you have, and you can really, it's a journey, and it's a logical steps that you are taking one after the other, each chapter when you are covering. So Bhagavad Gita, from one of the scholars, one of the devotees' perspective also, he was saying that Bhagavad Gita is the mind of Krishna. I was thinking, how can you say that Bhagavad Gita is mind of Krishna? People in general are interested to know about Krishna's name, form, qualities, etc. But now, the more interesting is that if you know the mind of Krishna, so what you will really get is that you will be able to love Krishna, and you will be able to know about Krishna more, because that's how it is, right? When you love somebody, you can really go into the depth of what the other person is trying to reveal. What does that other person want? So we, as aspiring devotees, so we also wanted to know who is Krishna and what is his mind, and why, in what way he has arranged this Bhagavad Gita. So that's what we are trying to go and quickly recap some of the chapters and see the logical link, and you can pursue on your own later on. So Bhagavad Gita, for me, it is the mind of God. It's mind of Krishna, and if you understand that, the relationship will be strong. See, so in the mundane world also, you see that when there is a boyfriend and a girlfriend, when they know each other. Know each other meaning they know, one can perceive the mind of the other. So that's how love starts, and that's how love really goes to the next level. And this is the mundane example that I'm talking, but in general also, the relationship that you can have with Bhagavad Gita and with the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is what we are trying to derive. So as I was mentioning, Bhagavad Gita is a progressive stages. Each chapter by chapter you are progressing, and also if you can understand and apply what is there in each chapter, you are really growing to the next level. Each one of us, if you ask me, where am I in terms of my realization and application of Bhagavad Gita chapter wise, I would say that most of us are at chapter 1. And maybe there are some people who are at chapter 4, but that is how it is. Like, we need to put these things into practice. It's not like you're reading and you're not applying anything. Bhagavad Gita is application manual. You can apply in your life. So in one way, we also worship Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, so that anybody who reads Bhagavad Gita worships me through intelligence. Oh, this is really I was taken back by when I heard this. Like, Bhagavad Gita, when you read Bhagavad Gita, you worship it with intelligence. So I am going to touch upon that. And Prabhupada was, he went to one of the universities in US, and he was asking that, is there any university which teaches how to live, how to talk, how to walk? But there are so many departments that teach you maths, physics, chemistry, biology, engineering, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So why is that there is no department how to live? See, one of the things is that it is assumed that you know it. It is assumed that you know how to live. But really, do we know how to live? So that's what we wanted to find out. One of the things that comes very evidently, the difference between the scriptures that we have and one which is the Bhagavad Gita that we have. See, Bhagavad Gita is called Nirnaya Shastra. Nirnaya Shastra means, Nirnaya means gives decisions. So it's the Nirnaya Shastra. Whereas the other scriptures called Upadesha Shastra. Upadesha Shastra means they give you instructions. Here, Nirnaya Shastra means it gives you decisions. It is more to do with your why. So that questions, Atato Brahma Jignasa, which is the first thing that one should have. The inquisitive mind. Why is this? Why is this way? So that is where the Nirnaya Shastra comes into picture. It tells you more of why, instead of telling you do this as an instruction. So Bhagavad Gita is a Nirnaya Shastra. It helps you to take decisions in life. When some situation comes, how do I deal with it? That's what Mahatma Gandhi once was telling, and it is the famous quotation that we have in the backside of Bhagavad Gita, in our Bhagavad Gita as it is, where Mahatma Gandhi says that when situation come in my life wherein I am really down and I'm not able to do anything, I open Bhagavad Gita and I see that there are some phrases which console me, which help me to take decisions and move forward in my life. So that is the Nirnaya Shastra. That is what Bhagavad Gita is unique about when compared to any other Shastra. It is Nirnaya Shastra, not Upadesha Shastra. It is Nirnaya Shastra. Okay. So as I mentioned, these 18 chapters are 18 steps to the spiritual realization, and we wanted to understand the first chapter. I'll give you a perspective how to read Bhagavad Gita and how do you do the adhyay. Reading and studying is different as adhyay. So Bhagavad Gita adhyay, when you do, how do you do it? And this is what you need to start thinking. How do I take decisions in my life? How I can reveal that from Bhagavad Gita? What is Krishna trying to tell me? So that is what we wanted to do. Okay. So now you know that chapter 1 is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So Vishada Yoga, basically that's the Vishada Yoga as per Vyasa, who has given the title of Arjuna Vishada Yoga. But now Srila Prabhupada gives the chapter name as Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. I was thinking, why is that Srila Prabhupada has given a different name? They not much to do with Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So why is that? See, so if you wanted to understand the first chapter, you need the ability to, so once you understand the chapter 1, the mindset of Srila Prabhupada also, you can really understand Krishna. Because if you wanted to understand Krishna, it is easy to go through a realized soul. And Srila Prabhupada is one of the greatest proponent who has given this Shastra and the explanation in a way that we can understand. If not, there are so many Bhagavad Gitas that have been in the market and are coming in the market, more than 600. But after reading this Bhagavad Gita as it is, that we have the copy, people have started becoming devotees. That is, one of the transformations that can happen in your life, that you will start understanding Krishna, you will start understanding yourself. So that's the beauty about it. That's my revelation too. I started understanding myself and understanding Krishna and the environment and the other people. So Krishna wants to help us understand how to observe the reality in one way in chapter 1. So in chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, through that chapter Krishna wanted to help us to understand how to observe the reality. So that's the Gita in one word. So up to how to observe the reality, because we are in a our situation is that we are thinking, oh, maybe this is what it might be, and some person may think that, yeah, this is what I think, this is what it should be. So this is all, but how to observe the reality as it is what Krishna is trying to tell you in the chapter 1. See, because each person will be seeing the things in this world in a different way. See, Duryodhana was observing the armies. So his observation, he concludes with saying that I wanted to fight, I wanted to kill people, and I wanted to win. And that's the observation and conclusions that Duryodhana had after seeing or observing the armies. What did Arjuna have? Arjuna was also observing the same armies. His observation concludes saying that I don't wanted to fight, I don't wanted to kill, I don't wanted to win at all. So it's the same thing, but two people observing the conclude observation concludes in a different way. Then what? So different conclusions because of different observations. So we need to be keen in observing what we are observing. Okay, so how to observe the reality is what Krishna is trying to bring it out. Okay, so Krishna is also observing the armies. His observation concludes saying that we wanted to fight, but neither to lose nor to win. The whole purpose is that, from Krishna's perspective, fight to establish religious principles. So what is that religious principle he wanted to establish? He wanted to establish the love of God. How? See, he says that, Krishna says, Arjuna, you should fight to show to this world that how much you love me. How much you are ready to surrender to me. And surrender means how you are doing things as a servant to me. So that is the kind of an conclusion that Krishna wanted, and that is how we need to see. See, we need to see how Krishna is seeing it. So we need to see it that way, not with our mundane eyes. That is what is called Jnana Chakshu. Jnana Chakshu means when you get that, that is where you will be start seeing the in toto what it should be like. So not from your own perspective. Okay. So that's the gist I wanted to give about the chapter 1, and quickly I will touch upon what is chapter 2 and chapter 3, and later on at some other time, as we have some other courses followed after this, so we will dig deeper and we'll understand it in a better way. So see, in chapter 1, that's what it is. How you should observe the reality is what Krishna is trying to bring you out. And this chapter 2 basically, see, Krishna, in chapter 1, what happened is that Arjuna was depressed and he was lamenting. And you cannot really give a lot of advice to a person who is in depression. You need to first bring him out of depression. So in chapter 2, the main theme or the idea of Krishna speaking is that to bring Arjuna out of lamentation, out of depression. Some of us are also into depression, into something happened in our life, and so that is what Krishna is telling you in the chapter 2 and bringing you out of depression. And he's saying that to Arjuna by clarifying certain doubts and he starts with saying that, hey Arjuna, but you are not this material body, you are spirit soul. He starts with that and then gives various other information such that he is coming out of depression. And now after end of chapter 2, Arjuna is now saying that, yes, earlier my Gandiva was sleeping, now please tell me what is best for me, I will do it as per your whatever you wanted to me to do. So that's how Krishna is now. Now again, the chapter 3, So what is chapter 3? Chapter 3 is talking about karma yoga, right? So karma yoga, basically chapter 3, Srila Prabhupada gives the title as action in Krishna consciousness. So that's the beauty about this. And basically one or two words, and then I'll conclude my discussion on this overview. So basically in karma yoga, Krishna is basically saying that you need to do action in Krishna consciousness. That's what Srila Prabhupada puts the title as. And basically you are you because lot of time Srila Prabhupada used to say is that you need to understand the spirituality. Can you mute, Prabhuji? Okay. So if you wanted to understand the Bhagavad Gita in toto, in the sequence in which Krishna was explaining, he says that in chapter 3, Karma Yoga, do your karma and yoga. So karma yoga means not that your mundane work that you are doing, that is karma. So karma yoga means in connection with Krishna. So that is what is action in Krishna consciousness, where so what you are doing is that you are just doing some service to Krishna. So in manasa, vacha, karma, whatever way you are trying to do, and later on in the next chapter, where in the 4th chapter, he is going to talk about the Gnana Yoga or the transcendental knowledge. So see, it is like you without service, knowledge is ignorance. So you need to really think about how to do service. And so that's where Krishna is saying that you do service, and when knowledge is given, now you can correlate. So that's how the rest of the chapters also go. The chapter 5 is basically the combination of the karma and gnana that he has given in the first 2 chapters. So that's logically how he goes. And chapter 6 is Dhyana Yoga. He says that but there are so many distractions that will come in your life, and how do you need to be focused. So that's how he is going to give you the entire Gnan. So I'll stop uh, whatever I wanted to give you a summary about the entire Bhagavad Gita, how, what perspective you need to see and read or study Bhagavad Gita. So we will.
Prabhuji, please unmute yourself, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it muted for a long time or just now?
No, no, Prabhuji. It was.
Just now, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. So today, as part of the 18 chapter conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. So this what we will be, there are 5 topics basically that Krishna wanted to discuss. One is, the first topic is that summary of karma yoga he wanted to give. See, whatever we are trying to see here or in this chapter is basically Krishna wanted to re-emphasize certain things, Arjuna wanted to reconfirm certain things, and he wanted to give you an overview about all the things that has been covered also, and re-emphasize and put a structure and give you an end message also, for final message, concluding message for you to take home. So the first topic that he discusses is summary of karma yoga. He gives you a summary of karma yoga, and the next he talks about the modes of nature. And we have seen the modes of nature, so all the 3 modes. So he digs deeper and really elaborates on that. And the third topic he picks up is the ideal worker. Who is an ideal worker, and how do you attain the love of God? That's the essence. How do you get the love of God? And the last topic, the 5th topic, he talks is what would be the end result of the person who has achieved this love of God. What is that he will be able to get? That's what Stephen Covey keeps telling. Keep the end in mind. So that's what he gives you the end result. What will be the end result once a person follows and as per Bhagavad Gita? Then what happens to him? Okay. So with no further ado, let me pick up this chapter, the summary of Karma Yoga. The verses 1 to 18 talks about it's basically mostly like frequently asked questions that pop up all the time, again and again. So that's what he's discussing. 18 chapters is the summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. And also the 18th chapter emphasizes the purpose of life, reiterating the importance of perfection of renunciation and attaining of the transcendental position above the three modes of nature. So these three modes of nature are always there here. So how do you, how one can attain the transcendental position above this, overcoming these three modes of nature, is what he is going to talk about. And in this particular first Karma Yoga section, summary of Karma Yoga, Arjuna asked two distinct subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, namely renunciation, Tyaga, and renounced order of life, Sannyasa. He wanted to know the meaning of these two words. Okay. Excuse me. The first sloka in the 18th chapter, 18.1. Arjuna uvacha sannyasasya mahabaho tattvam ichchami veditam tyagasya cha rishikesha kratak kesi nisudana. So here in this particular first sloka, Arjuna has asked or said, "O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, the Tyaga. What is the purpose of renunciation? And of the renounced order of life, Sannyasa. O killer of Keshi demon, master of the senses." So here, so basically here there are two reasons why Arjuna is addressing Krishna with as Keshi Nisudana. So, O killer of Keshi demon. So, because Arjuna also has this some what do you say, queries in his mind. It's like demons are there, and similarly the doubts that you have are also related to the demons, right? So these doubts need to be killed, and that is the reason why he is addressing Krishna as Keshi Nisudana. So there was one demon called Keshi, and he was in Vrindavan. Krishna killed him, and master of the senses. So Rishikesha, because what happens is that sometimes our mind is not in control, and one of the reasons is that the senses, mind is also part of the senses, right? So we know that apart from the five karmendriyas and gnanendriyas, we have three certain things, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So mind is also is part of the senses. So that's what, and sometimes the mind is not, it is troublesome. So he wanted to clarify this, and that's the reason why he is addressing that. Okay. So basically in the first 12 verses, he Arjuna wanted to come out of this karma bandhan. See, because that's what we are getting tied up because of the modes of nature or for various other reasons, and primarily because of the way we are taking up activities. Okay, so he was asking about the purpose of renunciation, and see, if one understands everything that belongs to Krishna, then there is not much of a problem. But what happens is that we always think that we are the controllers, we are the enjoyer, and this is what is the problem. So, so, so let's discuss that. So you know that bhumir apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhirevacha ahankara mitiyam me vinna prakriti mastada. Earth, water, fire, air, either mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together these 8 elements constitute my separate material energies. So whatever you are talking about, the matter that you have, this is my house, this is my body, this is the whatever. So all these things actually do not belong to you. That's what he is saying. Krishna is clearly saying that these are all my separated material energies, and because this body is made up of panchabhutas, and mind, intelligence, and false ego is a function of one of these, because we are in the material world. So these are all energies of Krishna, and so So, and again, Krishna also mentions that because since we think that our intelligence is mine, my strength, what I am talking about, is mine. So this is what Muhammad Ali used to say. Muhammad Ali, who was the one of the undefeated champion of world heavyweight boxing, wherein he challenged, saying, and he came to proclaim that no, God also cannot beat me. And that's the kind of sometimes arrogance comes, and people now see the situation what Muhammad Ali is. He cannot even lift a cup of tea because of the Parkinson disease. Earlier he was saying that nobody can really defeat me. But what happened now? So that is what you need to understand, the reality where we are, and what we are. That's what Krishna is saying. And the strength that is there is what to the strong is also from coming from me. And in fact he goes and says that what the digestive energy that is required when you take the food is also coming from me. So what see, that's the, so in one way, is there anything that belongs to me? A intelligent person would ask that, because everything is coming from Krishna. So, and Krishna also says in the 7th chapter, 10th verse, buddhi, whatever that intelligence, the is also coming from me. And so basically, the that's what we need to understand. A bhakta, a devotee, slowly understands that this material energy, whichever is there, materially, whatever matter is there, this is not really mine. And then he might think, then now the logically the next few verses, the Arjuna is asking the 18.5. Yagnadana tapa karmana tyagam karma eva tat yagna dhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity and penance purify even the great souls. So here Krishna is saying next is that one has to do these acts of sacrifice, charity and penance, and not, these are not to be given up. Why is that? So basically, in the previous chapters we have seen that there are 3 paths to hell. And what are these so the 3 paths to the hell are basically the kama, krodha and lobha. And this is what Krishna was talking in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And how do you really, what is the antidote for that? But the antidote, what Krishna is now giving for the 3 paths to hell, is what now he is giving. The kama, whichever what is which is there, can be overcome by sacrifice, yajna, and the lobha which is there, we can be overcome when you give charity, dhanam, and the krodha through penance. So that is what the Krishna is saying. And this is not, he's saying that not just this should not be given up by anybody, and it has to be taken up by everyone, and including great souls need to continue doing this. It's not like exception for great souls. For everybody, including great souls, he is saying that one should do it. Okay. So now, sometimes it comes to our mind that what is this yajna, and how do I really realize in my life? I wanted to quickly talk about see, yajna, you know that yajna means with a havan kund that you will be seeing, and is that yajna and this yajna the same? So here it is the same. So basically, when you do any yajna, there is a divine purpose for doing it. So for in this yajna, whatever we are trying to do, we can relate to that. See, in a yajna, you give some offerings, and when you give the offerings, there is a phalam that you get, the result. So now without giving offerings to the yajna, you cannot get the phalam. So now what is that? First of all, you need to find out what is the divine purpose you wanted to pick up in your life, and what is the offerings that you are going to give, and what is the end results you are going to get. You need to have the clarity. It is simple. Like I can relate to the software programming. So I'm a software developer, and I did a lot of programming. So for any program, whatever I write, I say that what is the input that I need to give to the software program, and what will be the output that I expected out of it. And obviously I will do certain things such that I get my output, and I need to give the inputs. Without inputs, it cannot happen, right? So in your life also, if you wanted to do this yajna, or because Krishna is saying that you need to do yajna. What yajna we are talking about? It is not like the olden days we used to put ghee and other things. That yajna is not what we are relating here. We are talking about, say for instance, let's take one mundane example. You want your higher purpose is that you wanted to maintain some cleanliness of your body, or at your home you wanted to maintain cleanliness, and that is your higher purpose. So it are the divine purpose in one way. So now what is that offering that you need to give such that you get certain phalam? So what is the offering? The attachments, some of the attachments you can give as the offering, like laziness is one of the offerings that you can give. Such that means you can, so if you wanted to maintain cleanliness, so you need to leave certain things, or some attachments you have to overcome. So that laziness you have to overcome. And what would be the phalam? What would be the, you will be getting the mode of goodness, the mode of goodness, where you will be more clean in your thought, word and deed. So that's the mode of goodness as a phalam you will get. So you can realize this for anything. For instance, you wanted to do the same thing for eating, say. I'm just giving you a mundane example so we can relate Bhagavad Gita, and you can start practicing things in your life by applying things, whatever is said in Bhagavad Gita. It is a practical manual, right? So act of eating as yajna. So why am I eating? See, basically, why am I eating? I wanted to nourish my body. And if I wanted to nourish my body, I should not, what are the attachments I should leave? I should leave eating unhealthy and junk food. So that's so that I can get a good health as a result. So that's the and also the divine purpose is that this body which is there, it should be kept clean, and it should be kept healthy, because somebody is residing here in addition to my soul. That is, Paramatma is residing in my soul, and this is like a temple. So I should maintain it properly, I should feed it properly. So that's the divine purpose. And that's what when we decorate this particular, by putting this tilak, we are symbolizing that only. So first the tilak says that I'm the servant of Krishna. This is the foot of Krishna, and I am his servant. And this down one, this is called tilak. This is the Tulasi Mata. That symbolizes that I am the servant of Krishna. So similarly, if you wanted to do this yajna for says speaking, so same thing. What is the attachment that you can give? The attachment is that you should not criticize or do ninda of others unnecessarily, the speaking ill of others. That's all you need to give up. That's the attachment. And what would be the output? Now you will have more time for doing chanting, for reading, and associating with other devotees, and listening to other devotees talks. So this is all that you will be getting as a phalam. So you need to identify these kind of things in your life, and this yajna, whatever Krishna is saying, which is mandatory, everybody should do. So apply it in your life. Okay, everything in your life can be made everything in your life can become a divine purpose. So when you apply this yajna, or do it as a sacrifice, the word sacrifice, yajna is synonymous. Okay, so that's what we need to do. For a sacrifice also, you need to give some offerings, and then only you will get the phalam. So this is all. Okay, so I would conclude by saying that find out one yagna in your life that you wanted to make it a purpose driven, because don't live a life without a purpose. You need to have a higher purpose in your life and a divine purpose, more importantly, in your life, such that you can best utilize this human form of life. Okay. And the best way to approach this is through one of the realized soul, the spiritual master. That's what Krishna says, tadvitti pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. So basically, when you seek the guidance from a realized soul, having the devotee association and the realized soul association, that is where your progress will be there. And I would definitely recommend you to pick up the next course that is coming and that is offered, such that you can continue this particular journey and you can shape your life in such a way that you can realize the spiritual truths and continue your journey, because till the time you really, it's like if you have a tree guard, a small plant, you have a tree guard. So similarly, this tree guard is required, and so the association of devotees will really help you to as a guard, and that will motivate you to really continue this spiritual excitement, enthusiasm that you carried for the last 18 days. Okay. Okay, next 18.13 sloka. Here, पंचैतानि महाभावो कारणानि निबोध मे संख्ये कर्ताने प्रोक्तानि सिद्धये सर्वकर्मणाम. O mighty Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn these from me. So basically, Krishna is saying that in Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. So these 5 causes, when you understand and put it in the right perspective, then that action or activity will be successful in one way. So he's saying that he is giving you the success principle for any activity that you are going to do. Understand this. Krishna is trying to give you the success principle for becoming success in any activity that you take up. Okay. Adhisthanam tatra tatha karta karnam cha prajna vidham vividhascha prakta chesta daivam chaivatra panchamam. The place of action, the body. So this is what we have learned in the previous chapter. So kshetra kshetrajna, that when you studied in the previous chapter, that is what he is reiterating. The place of action, the body, the performer, the individual soul, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavors, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. Okay, so what we can reveal from here? So basically he's saying that you need to understand 5 things. Place of action, that means this, you need to understand the body, what it is made up of, etc. And the performer, the individual soul, that is what you really are, and the various senses which are there, and the many different kinds of endeavors that you are going to do, activities, and ultimately the super soul. Okay, so now out of these 5, which is what you really are and what is in your control? So basically, what is in your control, based on the past few chapters, all the chapters that we have seen, that other than the individual soul, other things are not really in your control. Neither the body is in your control in one way, because it's not permanent and you have to leave it here. But, and the various senses are also material per se. They are the modes of action, modes of nature, and many different kinds of endeavors. So the spiritual part of it is the individual soul and the super soul. So basically, be focused to realize that the individual soul is what really matters. The rest all is not yours. they are not really yours. That's what we need to understand. And in the earlier slokas also, Krishna mentions that he has compared these senses, indriyas, with the horses, and the mind with the thread that is pulled. Uh, and the higher intellect, the buddhi, is the person, the driver who is driving it, and the consciousness, the atma, is the soul. So this is based on the Kathopanishad, this particular chariot, and this description has been given. What's the revelation from here? So basically the revelation is that there are so many things that you need to understand. It's like, suppose you have a chariot, a vehicle, and you also have the engine, petrol, etc. And now you wanted to, I see, if you wanted to move the vehicle, you need to have horses, you need to have the body also, the chariot, and you need to also have the driver, which is the buddhi, the intelligent, and you need to also have the mind to control the senses. You also need that, and atma also is required, the passenger to sit, and then you need to take him. Now this is what we understand. Now if suppose you wanted to go on the road and there are signals, and the signals are like green, red, unless and until if it is red you cannot go, though you have everything, but you cannot go. Only when there is green, then only we can go. And similarly, the super soul, that the five things that he's talking about, the super soul is basically the sanctioner, and he is the upadrashta, Anumanta. So basically he is the person who is sanctioning and witnesser, and unless until he says, he gives you the green signal, your vehicle cannot go. So understand that you think that you are this, but Krishna is really telling you in all the other slokas that I am the person who is giving you buddhi, I am the strength for you, and if he is not there, you are nothing. You are standstill. You just, your vehicle should stay there unless and until there is a signal given green by Krishna. So that's how you need to take. And we have seen that. If I'll give you a mundane example. Say, suppose there is a ball where somebody is playing, and there is a ball that just came into your window by breaking your window pane, and it came inside. And what would anybody say? Will they take the ball and start cursing the ball? So you will find out that who really hit the ball. You will not start cursing the ball. So there is a cause for, you will find out. So similarly, the cause for everything is Sri Krishna. So that's what in Brahma Samhita, Brahma says that Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So you need to find out who is the cause of all causes. That's the root cause analysis. When you do it, then you will understand in perspective, in a then you can have the right kind of a vision to take up your activity. That's what Krishna is saying. You need to understand. So and in the previously, what he is also mentioning is that I am the Upadrashta and Anumanta. It's in 13th chapter, 23 words he is saying. So that's the vision that Krishna wanted to reiterate and give you about the Karma Yoga part. And now in the next section, basically what he wants to tell you is that one's work according to the 5 factors is dictated by 3 modes of material nature. He talks to this second topic that he picks up is the 3 modes of material nature, and and he talks about the knowledge part of it. And knowledge can also be in the in mode of goodness, or it can be in mode of passion, or in mode of ignorance. So that's how he relates the knowledge part. That knowledge is by which that undivided spiritual nature is seen in all the living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms. So that's what we have seen in the Karma Yoga Action in Krishna Consciousness, the 5th chapter, where Krishna says that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavya Hastine Sunichaiva Supakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. So the knowledge in goodness is what once you have, you can see things in the right perspective. You can see that all these living entities which are there, there is a spiritual spark in them, and you have the right vision to see the things. So in the 20th verse, knowledge in goodness is what he is talking about. And knowledge in passion, a person, the knowledge in passion. So basically that knowledge by which one sees in every different body there is a different type of living entity. So these people cannot see in the right perspective. They think that this is a animal, and I am a human being. This is an insect, and since I am a human being, these particular animals have no soul, so let me cut and eat this soul. That's what in Western society most of the people say, that animals do not have soul, so let us, there's nothing wrong when you cut them and eat. Well, that's not the right knowledge. Knowledge in passion is what they do not have the right perspective to see things. And in the 22nd verse of the 18th chapter, Krishna talks about knowledge in ignorance. So that knowledge by which one is attached to one type of work as all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager. So basically, this is the kind of a situation most of us are, knowledge in ignorance. So we do not wanted to understand about God. We do not wanted to go beyond this mundane ahara nidra bhayamaitunan. So we are just happy with eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So this is what most of the people are, knowledge in ignorance. So no connection with the absolute truth, and neither they are interested to have any connection with the absolute truth. So this is like living like animals. So that is what the people are doing. Okay, so the next one is what Krishna talks about in the 23rd to 26th verses. Actions that you are taking are also in the mode of the goodness, passion, and ignorance. Actions also can be in these three categories. So actions in goodness is basically regulated by Shastra without any fruitive desires. So that is what people do when they do actions in the mode of goodness. They really follow the Shastric injunctions, and they are performing without any attachment or hatred or anything like that. Okay, so that is text 23. And Srila Prabhupada relates this action in goodness to Krishna consciousness. So that's how a Krishna conscious person also does. Okay. So actions in mode of passion, these kind of people, when when they do this kind of action passion, action with great effort by seeking to gratify their desires. So they are doing it to gratify their desires, and there is a sense of false ego that is what is getting increased when people with mode of passion, and they wanted name, fame, women. So those kind of just to, because there are so many desires, they wanted to fulfill those desires in that mode of passion, and actions also are done in that mode. And in the mode of ignorance, basically they are illusioned. They do not follow any shastric injunctions. They disregard them, and they are not concerned about the future bondage, what will happen for tomorrow. They are least bothered. If somebody says, if you do certain things in this life, next life you will suffer. If somebody says, they say that who has seen the next life, let's enjoy, do merry, eat, drink, and just enjoy this life. We have not seen the next life. So they are not concerned about the future bondage at all. Without concern for and they do not have concern for when they wanted to do violence or giving lot of distress to others. They are not concerned. So and animal killing, they can do it left and right. And this is what in mode of ignorance, actions in mode of ignorance speak about this terrorist radicals whosoever are there. They go and bomb blast the Mumbai blast they can do, and they can self immolate themselves, and they can go in a plane and then crash the twin towers. All these things they do in the actions in the mode of ignorance, because they are totally, all these actions are in ignorance because they are illusioned. Hmm. Okay, so that's all about, and we are very close to our time. So probably we can pick up other things tomorrow. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, is that fine? If we can continue, or we can take up question answers and we'll continue it tomorrow. Or you wanted to go a little further? I don't know. Prabhuji is probably. Okay. So, Prabhuji, you're there? Okay, so we will pick up some questions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Prabhuji, you're there?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm there. I'm there.
Can you facilitate Prabhu for question answers?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
So there are some few questions, Prabhuji, here.
Yes, Prabhu.
Sudarshan is asking.
Yes, Prabhu.
Satya Sudha, she is asking, like, can we do penance in the present day situations, Prabhuji, or doing our dharma with pure heart itself is doing penance nowadays?
As I told you, Prabhuji, if I understood your question, Bhagavad Gita is practical. Whatever is given in that, it can be practiced. So you need to have the right perspective, a right guru. If you take a realized soul, if he can help you to give you the right perspective, you can really apply. Okay, so that's one thing. And you're talking about the sacrifice, right? So what exactly they are seeking, Prabhu, in the current situation or current world? Can we yuga, can we do this sacrifice? Is that what they're saying, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
No, Prabhu, I've not answered. So what I was asking is that if they are talking about yajna or sacrifice, you can, as I told you, yajna is nothing but having a higher purpose in your life, and for yajna you need to give some inputs, offerings you need to do. So if you can give up certain things such to get something output as a phalam, so that is what is yajna. As I given you some mundane examples. One is that you wanted to keep this body clean. So what you need to do? You need to leave your laziness. That is the attachment that you have. So you need to leave it. And what is the phalam you are going to get? You will be getting mode of goodness. And so many things. You do not wanted to speak nonsense. You wanted to speak properly. So what you need to do? So these things like that. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Next question.
One more question has come in the chat. What is the difference between love and bhakti?
Okay, so love and bhakti. See, I can give you, see, so what is the context we need to see, but without love, there is no bhakti. As I told you, as in the beginning, if you wanted to see in bhakti, what you do is like you are going to do some service, and if you do it as a mechanical way, it is like not going to really benefit the other person, neither to you. But if you do it with love, you are really doing that as a service as expected. So bhakti, when you are saying bhakti, it goes without saying that love is added to that, and without that it is not bhakti. It is like karma. You are doing any other karma, and bhakti is doing karma and doing it with love, and you are doing it with no ulterior motive. You are doing it for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, or you are not expecting any result, fruitive results from that. So that is how one should see love and bhakti. Hare Krishna, bro.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Praji. Next question. How to achieve higher purpose in life by Nilesh.
How do you achieve a
How
higher
to
purpose in
achieve
life?
higher purpose in life.
Okay, how do you achieve higher purpose in life? By having higher purposes in life. So basically, you need to have higher purpose in your life. So, and but try to strive to go there. See, if you think that I am only satisfied if I have nice bank balance, I have a nice wife and children, and a nice home, nice food to eat, then ahara nidra by maitun. So only four things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. You do not have higher purpose. So one should have higher purpose in their life. Go beyond this material body and go beyond that, because as Krishna was mentioning, there are five things for being successful in any activity. You need to know that, and one of them is that you need to know who is super soul, your individual soul, and then do things for the so that you see. I'll tell you one example. Okay, somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, why is that ISKCON was established? What is the vision for ISKCON? Somebody asked. And obviously, when you start a small company also, there is a vision document. When I started my software firm, I had a vision document that I created. What is my vision? So what is the higher purpose for the company? That's what vision is, right? So when Srila Prabhupada was asked, what is the vision for ISKCON? He said, to save people from spiritual death. Then what is the spiritual death? So because people are not realizing that there is something called soul, there is a spirit, that I am a spiritual being. So that is what, that is totally dormant, and it is not coming out. It is as if there is a spiritual death for you, and you are not taking up any activity associated with that spirit soul. That means there is a spiritual death. And as I just mentioned, action in ignorance. People are living like an animalistic life, no higher purpose. So once you cultivate, see, for all this to happen, you need to have, first thing is association. So the way you are now associating with people, and I also got associated with people with that thought process, that's how you need to. And but slowly we will get the higher purpose. It's not going to happen all of a sudden. It will take some time. So slowly, gradually, it will come to you, and you will also self-realize. And we are all learning, and we are getting that. Like, say, it's like if we are now, it's like giving an example. Srila Prabhupada gives an example. There is an iron rod, and there is a fire. Now, iron rod is nothing to do with the fire characteristics. But when you bring this iron rod close to the fire and keep it there for some time, all the characteristics of the fire can be seen in the iron rod. So it can also give you light, it can also burn, it can do a lot of things. So all the characteristics of fire come. So similar, that is the role of association. So for getting higher purpose in one's life, have the right association. It starts from association. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Praji, thank you very much. So here one more question by Siddharth Prabhu. Why Arjuna asked for the clarification of renunciation and the renounce order of life to Krishna?
Okay, so very good question. So see, he wanted to reiterate and find out what should be the way out now, such that I can really succeed in my life. Because renunciation should not be misunderstood. And because earlier, you see, the same question was asked by Arjuna. I think it was in the third chapter of Karma Yoga. The first question he was asking is that if since Krishna was mentioning in the second chapter that intelligence or gnana is higher, then why I should do any fruitive activity? So that means to say that if intelligence is higher, then why I should engage myself in fruitive activities? I'll totally give up. So that was the question where he started in Karma Yoga. The first doubt he had after listening to the entire summary of the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna was mentioning, he had a doubt, and same doubt is coming back again here in as part of the renunciation, and that's where Krishna is clarifying that, saying that you have to take up the work because your constitutional position is that you have to serve, you have to do some work, because you cannot go without doing any work. Just giving up the work and going to some forest is not what you are supposed to do. That is where Buddhism has come in, and it failed miserably, because Buddhism said that give up all the work, whatever you're doing, become renunciate and give up all this, because this is all not going to really help you. Krishna is not recommending that. Krishna is saying that you have to do the work, but do it in the right perspective. Right, but renunciate also, renunciate the fruits of the action that you are going to do. So that is where that renunciation comes. Okay, I think I answered that, Prabhu. Is that okay with you?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Small announcement here, Prabhuji. To all the participants, we are posting some Seva form to all of you who are interested. They can fill this form. You would like to render some services to us, because many of you are leaving now. So that's why I'm sharing this form to you. You can fill this form. So I'll continue with the next question.
Yes, Prabhu. Just want to add to that, what
Yeah,
Prabhuji was mentioning, the Seva form. So
yeah,
basically, as we wanted that, as I told you, association is very important. And as Krishna was mentioning, that you can associate by thought, word, and deed. So you can, if you suppose you are somebody who can read slokas very nicely and translate these slokas into Telugu or any other native language, or you are a person who can draw for nice pictures about so that others can get benefited. So use whatever skills you have in service of Krishna. That is what Krishna consciousness is. Once you do that, that's what Karma Yoga comes before Gnana Yoga. So before getting the knowledge, you need to get engaged with the service. So you associate somehow, and if not anything, just give some hard-earned money that you have to this particular event, because there are so many volunteers, brahmacharis who are there. We are not asking for it per se, but that is for your own purification. That's what Krishna is saying. Give charity, because there is so much of lobha that is there, that has to go out. How it will go unless until you give something? So, and if you ask me, everybody has got this lobha, everybody is stingy, but to you need to practice, and for that, and you can give your time. If not, money is not the only thing. You can give your time and do some service. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro.
thank you
Please
very much
continue.
for your kind announcement, Prabhuji. So here one more question from Premalata Mataji. She's asking, what needs to be done to gain positive mindset, especially when sick and physically tired?
When you are sick and tired.
And physically tired. Yeah,
Okay.
how to gain positive mindset?
Okay. I am a. So first of all, I also acknowledge that I am a registered medical practitioner of. I also give medicines, Ayurvedic Panchagavya medicine, and so if your body is sick, okay, you need to find out the root cause of that, and that's where Ayurveda is really doing it. Ayurveda is a subject, how you can have a healthy body, and we use medicine to prevent you from getting any disease in future also. That's what Ayurveda is. It's unlike your allopathy, which is what I got a headache, put anacin. It's not like that. We find out the root cause. So for you also, find out the root cause. Why are you physically tired? What is that? Maybe there is mental blocks are there. It may be, most of the time it is psychophysical nature. So if you can really ask yourself, find out the root cause, and then address that. You might be tired because you don't like the work that you're doing. You are tired because your boss or the people who are around you are, you are not really liking them. Find out the root cause and address that, and then you can really give a right solution, and you can permanently get the solution for that, not a temporary fix kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Proji.
And just to add that, see, it is like this. If most of the people say that I am tired, I am confused, and I am frustrated, but they are not doing anything. What there are, and Bhagavad Gita is a spiritual solutions. There are so many spiritual solutions for all the material problems that are there in your life. So if you can really apply them, and that application, you can do it by associating with these kind of programs and reading the Bhagavad Gita regularly and understanding and analyzing it, not just reading it and just for by hearting few slokas. That will not really help you. So try to be in association and take up some spiritual activity. And one of the activities for this Kali Yuga is chanting the holy name Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in Kali Yuga, there is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. That is what Shastra is saying. So so one has to also do four things. We'll discuss that some other time. But one of the things is that you need to do chanting. At least a few rounds of chanting. If you do, you can really, the lot of impurities that are there in your heart will just slowly get removed. Cheto Darpana Marjanam will happen. All the dust that is accumulated, which is what is bothering you, will all slowly go away. Take Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Proji. One more question from Ramya Mataji. Hare
Uh-huh.
Krishna. What is the practical application of the principle to work without fruitive desire and for the pleasure of Krishna? How to apply this in day-to-day life?
How to apply without expecting any result, fruitive result, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
See, I would give one example so that you can relate. And who is the Mataji who has asked that? Mataji
Yes,
has asked, Prabhuji has asked.
Mataji.
Mataji. So if suppose your mother, so your mother, the closest example that you can give in this material world is the service that the mother does to their children, right? So the mother does not expect anything from the child when she is giving changing her the diapers of the particular child, or feeding the child, or breastfeeding the child. It is a selfless love and affection. She is doing it, and not expecting any fruitive result. So that is how. And if you see, you are doing it as a mother is doing it for the child. If you can also take up some activities and service for the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and do it, or for that matter whatever activity that you are doing without expecting any fruitive results, if you do, there are few benefits. One is that you will not get disturbed when the results are in your favor or not in your favor. So that is one grossly you will be getting benefited. But if you can do it with love, you can really enjoy that activity also. Not that you are doing mechanically. So do it as a service. As a service goes with love. When you are doing it as a service or a love, you can really able to relate. Is that fine, Prabhu? Next question.
Yes, Proji. Yeah. So next question is from MSK someone. Why eating non-veg and drinking like bad habits are more attractive? How to avoid them?
Okay. So basically, they are asking that why one should stop eating non-vegetarian food. See, one should understand that the contrary one person can ask. "Nay, when I am eating non-vegetarian food, but you are also eating something by if from the plants, and you are also some plants you are just pulling from the roots, and you are also killing that particular plant, and so you are also going to get karma, and you are also doing the same thing what I am doing." See, the whole point is that there are two ways to answer this. First one is that the whatever you are going to take from whatever other sources, that consciousness will also come to you. Okay. And so jaisa anna vaisa man, that's what is given in one of the jaisa anna vaisa man. So what you take, so is your mind. If you take sattvic food, you are that is in the which and Krishna in the 17th chapter he talked about the foodstuffs which are in the mode of passion, which are mode of ignorance, in the mode of goodness. Fruits, juices, and all this come under the mode of goodness. So if you wanted to cultivate mode of goodness, you need to eat sattvic food. And this the spicy kind of food comes in the rajasic mode, and to some extent the animal food also. But in the tamasic mode, the animals, all these things come under the tamasic mode. So if you eat that kind of a non-vegetarian food, the consciousness with which that particular animal was there, and it was, see, the conscious, when you are killing somebody, how see, the plants are at a lesser consciousness level, and the animals which are there, they are like you and me. They can also walk, they can also bark or talk, whatever way. So their consciousness level is very matured state. So when you are killing something which is animal kind of a thing, which is at a higher consciousness level, and so that will really affect your consciousness also. And because it has gone through a trauma when it was getting killed, so that consciousness will come to you, and your mind will also become like that. So that's one thing. And if you see the people who are eating this vegetarian food like rice or anything, so we go through a, see, when paddy is grown, and when it comes to a ripened state, and that is, it is becoming very dry, and that kind of a thing, then you pick up the paddy, and then you make it into rice, and then you use it. So we, that consciousness level, and it's a natural, it came to a natural time cycle where that plant is done its due course, and then we pick it up. And if you are talking about fruits and vegetables which can be picked up from the tree or something like that, then that is naturally they are grown, and that is, the tree is giving you by not by killing that particular plant, but that is really good. Okay. And last thing, our human body, from a biological perspective also, the digestive system that we have and the teeth that we have is not really meant for us. It is for the other animals who cannot digest or eat other vegetable kind of a thing. They can eat non-veg. And again, if you have so much desire, in the next life Krishna will give you an animal body, so you can nicely eat the non-vegetarian food to your satisfaction, because that is your desire, so that he can fulfill also. So that is possible. So yes, Prabhuji, is that okay?
Okay, yes, Prabhuji. So we have few hands raised here. I'll ask first to unmute.
Yes, Prabhu, sure.
Gauri Prasad Prabhu, please unmute yourself, and you can ask the question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dandavat, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, you just now told about you are just an Ayurvedic doctor. So, Prabhuji, when I'm sick or when I am tired, no, Prabhuji, just I'm thinking Krishna, I can easily cure the sick or tired feeling. I can cure, Prabhuji, by thinking and chanting Hare. When I'm full of sick also, when I have got.
See, most of the diseases are psychophysical by nature. I'm not saying all, but at least most of the diseases that you have is psychophysical. See, that means to say, if you have a stronger willpower and a stronger, higher purpose in your life, say suppose tomorrow, tomorrow or day after tomorrow is your very important event, and you have determined that I have to go, and that is very important event for me. Since you made up your determination that you have to attend there, whatever are the odds, your maybe you will not feel, you will not really become sick that day, because you are determined, your mind is very focused, and it wanted to attend that particular event or that particular exam or whatever. You will not become sick. So it's all with psychophysical nature. That means your mind, if it is strong, your body will become strong. See, it's because they are not see, it's unlike your other medical practices. Ayurveda is a holistic medicine. It looks at things in a very holistically. So mind and body are not separate. They are part of it. That's what Krishna is also saying. So it's part of your material only. This body is made up of panchendriyas, and and the extension for that subtler body is mind, intelligence, and the false ego. Right? So that's what it is. So to answer your question, if you are sick, can I chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra or Krishna's name and I can become? See, it all depends. If you have faith in Krishna and you can do that, that is also possible. And people do. There are some other practices. I don't know much, but Reiki and other things, they kind of give that and cure others, right? So there is. I don't know much, but yeah. But again, the if you are the if you have a spiritual consciousness is higher than your material consciousness. So if you are operating at a higher level, so these things can be controlled, right? Like Jaipatak Maharaj, when he was getting operated for one of the things, he said, don't give me anesthesia, I don't need it, you just do the operation. And he got the operation done. And one of the devotee was saying, usually that kind of operation you have to take bed rest for 15 days. Next day he went and started giving lectures. And so see, they operate at a different level. They operate at a spiritual level. And this material whatever are there, they they really that doesn't really bother them. So that's what it is. Have a higher purpose. And spiritual, when you are talking about, that is at a operating at a higher level. So if you operate at that level, yes.
Okay, thank you, Proji.
Thank you.
One more hand is raised here by Sudarshan. You can unmute yourself and you can ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a doubt, Prabhuji.
Yeah, what is the doubt, Madhu?
Prabhuji, Adishesha is a servant of Krishna, Krishna na Prabhuji.
Is everybody servant of Krishna? That's the question.
No, Prabhuji, 1 minute. I need to complete it. Prabhuji, Adishesha was given a curse by some see that he will be born as evil of Krishna in 2 births, like Hiranyaksha in Varaha Avtara and Hiranyakashipa in Narasimha Avtara, Prabhuji. Then he told in remaining avatars he will become as companion of Krishna, Prabhuji. Then
Okay.
in which avatara she is companion and what is the name of
Okay.
that avatara, Prabhuji?
Mataji, let us restrict ourselves to Bhagavad Gita for now. That questions you can put it on the chat. If one of them will pick it up and answer it.
Yes, yes, yes,
Restrict to the
yes.
Bhagavad
We will. Yeah, we will send the answer to you, Sudarshan.
Yeah,
Don't
please.
worry. He's a boy. Actually, he is studying
Okay,
some
Prabhuji.
school boy. So.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Very nice question you have asked. Please do not mind me not answering that, but you can send it as a chat
Okay,
message,
Prabhuji.
and
No
we will
problem.
definitely answer it. Keep it up, Prabhu. Very nice question, but we'll
Okay.
restrict
Okay,
for
Prabhuji.
now to Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you,
Please
Prabhuji.
don't. Thank you, Prabhu.
Next,
No
Sadasiv, you can
problem.
unmute yourself. You can answer the question, Sadasiv. Hare Krishna, Sadashiv. Okay.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Like you rightly told in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna is repeating lot of slokas, particularly the one which I have seen is Manmana Adbhava. Okay. So is that Krishna showering more mercy on us, or is there something different we need to understand?
Prabhuji, can you ask one more time? It is raining outside heavily.
Yeah.
I can just follow up.
What I'm trying to tell is, there are a lot of slokas which is getting repeated in the 18th sloka, 18th chapter. Okay. Like if you see Manmana Bhaumad Bhakto, this is also getting repeated. So is Krishna showering more mercy on us by repeating and reiterating that to follow and become a devotee, or is there any other message to be taken?
Actually, Prabhu, so Krishna is very, very merciful for so many reasons. One of the reasons is that see how patiently, how diligently he is guiding us through the entire process of Bhagavad Gita. So yes, he is very merciful, and a very nice doubt you have asked and your question you have raised. So he is giving you step by step, and see the end of the chapter also. Right now he is reiterating what he has already covered in detail. He's very patiently answering Arjuna's questions. So many times Arjuna asks whatever was told previously also. So yes, he is very merciful Prabhu, and you can realize that slowly once you start reading Bhagavad Gita, the way that it has been narrated, the entire chapters. So it is very logically, each step is taking, each chapter is taking you closer to Krishna, and to become more a realized devotee. So each step, each chapter is like that. It's a sequential, progressive stages of how a devotee can progress. That's how it is. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next, there is one question in the chat box. uh, Krishna said that he is the taste of liquid, but few liquids taste bad. Is he in that liquid too?
Okay, very good question. Okay, so actually, there is nothing called bad per se. See, but somebody says Karela, Kakargai, we call it in Telugu. So it is very bitter. But in Ayurveda also, we have different tastes, and these are all required for your body. And how you utilize them for your own benefit is what. See, nothing in this world what is created is uh, uh, just like that it has come. It's all Krishna's arrangement. If you are talking about poison also, poison, if you forget about bad taste, poison is also can be used as medicine. And if you see in some of the homeo medicines, they use snake poison and other things in a very minute quantity to cure certain diseases. So it is there, and in the lot of things can be told. So yeah, Krishna is there everywhere. Forget about taste, in bad taste or good taste, that he is there in each and every atom. In Paramanu also he is there. So that's what all these people who have done research in the last 3 years or 4 years back, they did research for 10 years and finally concluded that what is that which is giving weight to this particular element is basically something which is having giving you that weight. That's called God particle, they said. That gives you weight. That if that is not there, there is no weight and nothing. The electrons, all the protons, these things cannot move. And something is there that is making it move. That is God particle. That's what these people, after doing millions of dollars, they have spent and finally concluded that the source of everything is God particle. So for bad taste, good taste, everything is Krishna only. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you very much. So same person, same Prabhu is asking one more question. How can I connect with you via social media? So
Um, so if you have any questions, you can definitely ask to the concerned this thing, and I am available on social media. I am not a social media guy per se, but you can reach me on my mobile, my email ID, krishnaswamy.j@gmail.com, if you have any queries. But I would also definitely encourage you to get in touch with some of our devotee support team. They can also help you out to reach me if you need. Yes. but you can reach me on my Gmail. Yeah, krishnaswamy.j@gmail.com. And
Okay.
and yeah, anytime if you need anything, you can reach me there.
Okay, Proji. Proji, one last question, if you have time.
Yes, Prabhu.
Sonu Gupta Mataji is asking, what is the difference between Amrit Bela and Brahma Muhurta?
Amurta Bela.
Yeah, Amrit Bela and Brahma Muhurta.
Okay, I don't have idea about Amruta Bela. Brahma Muhurta is basically, I think it is 45 minutes or 1 hour before the sun rises, something like that. And usually it is around 4 o'clock or 3:30 kind of a thing in the morning. That's where Brahma Muhurta starts. And till just before the sun rises, half an hour before the sun rises. So basically there. So that is the time where see, as we have discussed today, knowledge is in the three different modes. Actions are in three different modes. That is mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Similarly, the day is also divided into three different segments. The morning part, which is what is Brahma Muhurta, and the morning time is called in the mode of goodness, and the next is in the mode of passion, which is from say 8:30 onwards till say till 6 o'clock in the evening. It is in the mode of passion, and after 6 or 7 o'clock onwards till the night again is in the mode of ignorance. So if you are a person who is doing a lot of activities which are ignorance related activities, or doing an abominable kind of activities, you prefer to do it in the night. That is night in the sense, see, all these people who are having a criminal mentality, what time it is favorable for them? They do it in the night only. All these nonsense activities, whatever these people do, they do it that time. And yeah, if you are a if you wanted to enhance the spiritual spark and spiritual consciousness, you need to do certain activities in the Brahma Muhurta or in the mode of goodness time, which is in the morning, early morning hours. Like if you wanted to read Bhagavad Gita or do chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and listen, so you better do it in that time, because the nature also supports you. So that because that is favorable, so you do it that way. Is that okay, Prabhu? Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, is that okay? You're there? Yeah, I'm not sure if Prabhuji is left, but if any other person has any other doubt, you can unmute and ask. If you can unmute yourself. If not, Prabhuji would help you. Any hands have risen? Okay. Nobody has any other doubt? Okay, so Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, can we? I'm getting a call, probably it is from Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. You're trying to reach me, Prabhu? Is it Krishna Chaitanya? Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Danad Prabhu. Okay. Fine, Prabhu. I will. Yeah, Prabhuji, I will end for today then. Is that okay? I'll end for today. I will close the meeting. Is that fine? Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Take care. Hare Krishna. Okay, okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, yes, Prabhu. Yes. Okay, okay. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu had a power breakdown at his place, so backup also is no more there. So we can end the call. If anybody has any other question on the chat, we can take up. If not, we will assemble again tomorrow, same time, and we can continue our journey to understand the mind of Krishna and the chapter, the concluding chapter, and his concluding message. So yeah, that's all for now. Take care. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thanks for joining.